Hello everyone, welcome to Spicy Dungeoneer, and today we're going to be looking at two characters that I like, the Crossbow Expert and the Warlock, and we're going to be comparing them as they go up through the levels of from 1 to 20. This is probably going to be multiple videos, but I think it's an interesting topic. Don't get me wrong, I'm probably going to complain about the Warlock a lot because, spoiler alert, the Warlock is quite powerful, but the Fighter Crossbow Expert is also one of my favourite classes and I do enjoy playing that. I personally think that martials or any kind of fighter, even thieves in some regard, they have been nerfed and they're a lot weaker than they used to be in previous editions of Dungeons and Dragons. But I'm interested to hear in your opinions. What do you think? Do you think that the martials are severely nerfed in this game? Do you play martials? Or do you enjoy playing the challenge of not having magic in a magical game? I can remember when the game was basically structured around having a fighter, a thief, a cleric, and a magic user. Now it seems like everybody's got magic, and even creatures that didn't previously have magic now have magic. Classes that didn't previously have magic now have magic. So let me know what you think. Anyway, diving straight into this, we're going to have a look at the fighter. We're creating the characters from scratch, and so because I'm trying to choose the least magical thing, I'm going to go for the variant human. As far as creating that language, we don't really care about what that. It's nice. Whatever you want to have, you can have. But when it comes to the ability score, we're going to add 1 to dexterity and constitution. And for a skill, we'll choose perception because it's probably the best skill, but also it's in the theme of this crossbow expert, for which brings us to their feat, which is crossbow expert. I know a lot of people complain that crossbow expert is broken, but let's dive into that a bit later. So for the ability scores, I've chosen the standard array. You may do something different, but this is just for this example. I put the 13 into strength just so that they could wear heavy armor and get the full advantage of that. Otherwise, it's going to be dexterity all the way with a bit of constitution just to give us the hit points. Intelligence, wisdom, and charisma we don't really care about. Do whatever you want for the last of those. For the fighting style, we're going to choose archery to get that sweet +2 to range attack rolls. And for the 2 proficiencies, you can do whatever you want depending on how you want to plan your character, but I chose athletics and insight. Anything else that you might like, all of the backgrounds and things like that, you can really choose. I chose soldier background with intimidation and stealth because I thought at least the crossbow expert may wish to sneak around a little bit. Saying that, they're going to be wearing heavy armor, so that's going to be quite difficult to do. I also chose traits and things like that, but you know, that's a lot of flavor. You can do whatever you want for that. For starting equipment, I got chainmail, hand crossbow, but I had to use some of my gold to purchase the bolts for that. Hopefully your DM will be kind to you and give you some interesting starting equipment. Otherwise, you're on your own. And that is especially true for fighters who heavily rely on their DM to give them magical items in order to balance the wizards and other spellcasters in the group. Let's have a look at this crossbow feat. As I mentioned before, a lot of people do complain about it, but I don't think it's broken. I think adds an interesting dynamic, and basically people who complain about it should compare it to what happens with spellcasters. I think that basically there should be more of these sorts of options. There's nothing really for swords that I really like. Polearm Expert mastery is also a thing that can give you a lot of benefits, and that's good because polearms should be cool. I think there should be like room for people who dedicate themselves to the sword to get some really cool things. But anyway, let's get back to Crossbow Expert. You ignore the loading property of crossbows, which is great, and you can shoot at people or a hostile creature at 5 foot, within 5 foot, and doesn't get disadvantage. And the big one is that if you have a hand crossbow and you have nothing in the other hand, you can use your bonus attack to shoot the crossbow again. And so yes, that means that you are shooting twice in one round with the crossbow. And that's at first level, that is huge, but it's not really a game breaker. I just played a Crossbow Expert, same character as this, almost. I was a human as well. Sure, I got 2 attacks per round, but, you know, it's a fighter. A fighter's got to fight. A fighter's got to feel powerful in combat. They're supposed to be dealing damage. That's all they do. The magic user can do other things. The cleric can do other things. You know, I'm just wandering around shooting things, and the Warlock in the party is basically creating an illusionary terrain and sneaking everywhere. Which one's broken? Me because I can shoot twice, or a low-level magic spell that basically breaks stealth? Anyway, that's my rant. We'll get back into that probably a bit later. Let's continue. So, in summary, the Crossbow Expert's got 12 hit points, an arm class of 16. It's got that hand crossbow for +7 to hit, which is pretty decent for first level, and it's doing 1d6 plus 3 damage. It ignores loading and gets that extra attack. As a bonus weapon, it's getting the rapier, basically because it's a dexterity build that needs a weapon that will play into that. But you might notice that it's only doing piercing damage, and when I was playing Crossbow Expert, I had problems with that because we came across a swarm of rats, you know, the very same swarm of rats that's in Horde of the Dragon Queen in Greenest, and you know, I ended up just not attacking and assisting the cleric because they had an attack that could affect a swarm better than me. And so, you know, just because a fighter can shoot a crossbow twice in one round doesn't break the game. It's only piercing damage. You know, a horde of skeletons could easily deal with that. Anyway, I use in the early stages of this video, when I was looking at this sort of stuff, I looked at DPR and stuff like that, and I did check it out, but in the end I didn't continue with this trend towards the end because, as you'll see, it gets a bit ridiculous with what the Warlock can do. Anyway, moving on to the Warlock. I have played a Tiefling Warlock before, and it was a lot of fun. Tieflings get +2 charisma and +1 intelligence. So that means they're already ahead of the human by getting that extra +1 to something, whereas the human only got +2 in total, even if they used it as a +1/+1, if you get my drift. I think that species are broken in 5e because humans are too weak. If you think about it, humans would have become extinct. You know, all of the other species can basically outcompete. Even orcs would be better cave men or Neanderthals than humans would have been, if you get my drift. So I don't see how humans survive in most worlds. I think most species get dark vision, which is boring and in general is not played properly. We'll probably talk about that more in the future. Anyway, our Tiefling Warlock gets resistance to fire. Fire is a common form of damage, so getting resistance to it is very powerful. They get magic. They get their own magic. This is where I'm going to talk about magic creep. Yes, it's a thing. Basically, as all of these different species get access to spells and magical abilities and things like that, species that don't get access to it fall behind. And I really think that 5th edition in particular has seen most things absorb some magic in it, and I wonder whether that's because of the different culture that's around these days. Maybe based on computer games. I don't know. Anyway, the other thing that a Tiefling can get, our variant can get wings and a flying speed. We'll talk about flying another time, but you know, flying is another thing that can break the game. If you have a ranged weapon, you can fly and shoot at things on the ground. If they don't have the range, they can not do anything about it. So in the open field, a flying enemy can really do a lot of damage with minimum risk. If you add that the falling rules in D&D are broken as well, in that falling is instantaneous, so basically a flying creature can fall instantaneously without spending any movement, fall until they are in range to use their weapon, shoot, and then use their flying movement to fly back out of range. And they can just rinse and repeat and do this. And so, although yes, flying is cool and it's certainly one of the things that everybody wishes that they could do at some time, I think there is a really big potential to completely change the game in that way. Don't get me wrong, if you created a campaign that was based on that, that would be fine. Also, a standard dungeon crawl solves that issue, but as you can see, flying can be very powerful. We'll talk about dark vision because most people are doing it wrong. Basically, dark vision is given to a lot of creatures and they run around in darkness as if they can see everything and everything's okay. But really, dark vision, people react in darkness as if it was dim light. So in darkness, they are only lightly obscured and they can't see any color. So if your DM is describing all of the colorful tapestries in a particular room that's dark, that is not in sync with what dark vision does. Now, we'll get back into this a bit later, but I'll leave the video now because it's coming on and we'll go to the next one next time. Bye for now. Bye-bye.